like, it's really difficult to unlock this area of the body. And so she was like, and then the pressure's on because they're filming it, right? On top of everything is like in a fishbowl. So she's being filmed, and she starts judging herself. You know what I mean? That's the number one rule, no judgment, which is the hardest thing as a human being to do. It was like, no judgment. And so she's like, you're sitting there, and she's like, oh, I know this doesn't look sexy, and she's kind of making fun of herself, laughing, but uncomfortable. And it was like, I said, that's okay. Just breathe. Just be with whatever this is. It doesn't have to be sexy. You don't have to be anything. Just be yourself. And then she finally, like, she was going through this for a little bit of being, like, feeling awkward, and then she finally just stopped and started crying. And it was from the simplest thing, you know, just the breathing and the rocking and just getting present in her body. And so I said, you know, or she basically, and she's like, well, this isn't sex either. And like, no, I was like, you know, this is really about a release, like an orgasm's a release, sex is a release. You're feeling things. This was an emotional release you needed to have before you could really be in your body. And so that's why I think a lot of people get limited in their intimacy experience or their sexual experience, is because before they get to like a deeper layer of what they can feel, both for their own pleasure or sexually, or being more intimately connected to someone else, something sets in. It's like, oh, I don't want to feel something. And so they shut down. And like the girl in the video, right? She was like, I've never had an orgasm with a partner because she wasn't comfortable letting go in front of someone else. She'd do it alone, not in front of a male partner. So it's again, you know, really noticing that place. Start to use your mind to ask questions. So when you get in a zone where you're like, I'm judging myself, or I'm disconnected, and notice maybe you're avoiding a sensation, or maybe you're avoiding an emotion, and this is a moment you can feel more, let it go. And the result of that actually is you just have a much happier life overall, not just better sex. But that, you know, so start to use your mind after a while. You'd be like, well, what does my skin feel like? You know, you start to ask those questions and scan your body. But you're saying you're kind of just tripping out more on the whole thing. Does anybody else have an experience? Yes?
Well, mine was more, it's because I just met her, but I was more aware of her. Like, I was just thinking, I didn't know her, but like her lips, her eyes, her fingernails, I was more aware of just like that. I wasn't so much, maybe I was doing it wrong. It was mentioned to me, I was more noticing her and what was going on with her.
That works too. You know, it's again, because if you notice you're in your head, you can start saying, what do their eyes look like? And that's actually the key to being an amazing lover, right? Is that people don't even necessarily have to say what they want, because you can see and feel. Like there's an old Tantric, you know, like poem, and it's like, you know, you see every movement, like how they breathe, and when it changes, the fluttering of their eyelids, the way their fingers and toes curl, like you're paying attention.
So you're reading their body, basically. You're
present. I mean, like, so really, like, let's think what that means, is that mostly we aren't there. You know, you're like, you're fucking, and you're not even there half the time. You know, either for our own experience or for that other person. And then I talk to some people, and like having their eyes open during sex is like makes them very uncomfortable. But I would say like you can play back and forth between here's the focus on me, and then here's the focus on you. Sometimes, like I've actually said, like see what works for you, because I'll have some women I've worked with where they have a hard time letting themselves go. I'm like, okay, try and feel and scan your own body, and they just can't. There's just too much, like they've just been too embarrassed or too shamed or something for so long to feel their own body so much. I say, okay, then pay attention to their body, and they can do that. You know, they can, okay, what does he look like? What does he feel like right now, or she feel like right now? What's that experience? So just attention. Again, become aware of your attention, and is your attention here right now in the physical body at all, in your physical body or their physical body? Because most of us, it's somewhere entirely different, either judging ourselves or projecting the future, the past, whatever that is.
Is that why some women like the lights off?
Yeah, so I had one workshop, I think, over the summer, and I had a woman who'd been married for like 20-some years, and she's like, I was like, okay, what's your goal when we walk out of the workshop today? And it's like I do these 8-hour kind of breakthrough days where I'm like, okay, what's the thing you want to break through by the end of today? And she's like, I want to make love with the lights on. You know, and it's like, it's very powerful. But like, to me, there's something so like heartbreaking about that, you know, that she, you know, she thought, I don't like to look at myself in the mirror naked. you know, and like that, like, you know, makes me just like, oh, how much of her like life is she missing? Because it isn't that simple. Like what she's gonna think is no big deal, the rest of my life I do that, and that only happens when I have sex. No, that's everything. You know, when the lights aren't on when she's having sex or when she doesn't, that all the time, again, those tapes are running all day. They just get very noticeable in those moments. All day long, she's got some subconscious not loving her body, not wanting to be, right? And so if we can start to undo that and you know, her having that breakthrough, and she starts to unpack all the other areas of her life that she's got inhibition or self-judgment or self-loathing, right? So that's where Tantra is really powerful in that it takes the sexual experience, which is a powerful experience, and how do we rewire our entire consciousness using that moment of sexual energy, either self-pleasure, masturbation, or sex with a partner. How do we use that heightened moment to have a bigger life? Better sex, bigger orgasm, better life. Yes?
Can you have a tantric experience without purposely trying to have a tantric experience?
Yes. What did that happen to you or your friend? What was the experience like that you would define as tantric?
Just complete presence and just like, you know, having sex, completely looking at somebody, just not even looking away, just complete presence of another person and yourself as well.
So remember, Tantra is like, it's not like something to go believe in or religion.
Yeah.
Really all that Tantra or even yoga was is thousands of years ago. People kind of sat and they said, you know what we notice? We notice when you breathe like that, you'll consistently have this experience. So let's write it down and teach it to other people because it's useful. Because these are just tools that already exist.
Okay.
Right? These are natural human embodiment when we allow it. That's what's actually natural to us. If we don't all have like the bullshit and the judgment and the painful thoughts, when those are gone, what you experience is deep presence and pleasure. Like that's why I said you're a walking orgasm. That's what I meant by that. Like strip away all the bullshit and the shame and the embarrassment and the inhibition and all of that. And you would just feel this amazing energy all the time, this expansive energy, right? So it's not, you can learn to tap into it, but the cool thing with Tantra for me, I had experiences I would have considered Tantric before I started studying Tantra, but I was like, oh, somebody wrote it down and made it a science, you know, like, and I'll do that every day and I'll have this experience, I'll do this, and it's creating that kind of discipline of the ritual to create new muscle memory. And the more you do it, you start to actually bank that positive energy and those kind of more happy hormones and happy thoughts. Again, you start to replace the old tapes of negativity, like that woman who's afraid to make love with the lights on, and if she starts like actually embodying her body a little more, I had her just start, I was like, go in front of the mirror, and even if you can't be naked at first, do it with your clothes on, and then if you can, you know, inch your way towards anything, but just stand in front of the mirror and like, I promise if you can let go for a moment, and you see yourself, there's some part where you stop, you know, you just like go, oh, that's sexy. You know, fall in love with yourself a little bit. And then those tapes stop saying, I'm ugly, or my body's, and they start saying, you know, I'm sexy, or I feel good about myself. So you're literally, by doing these practices of Tantra and the breathing on your own, and then, you know, in preparation for being with her, it's gonna start to change your muscle memory, the automatic response.
Maybe buy them lingerie that makes them look sexy, or...
I mean, if they enjoy it. So it's again like that can be a ritual, or that can be a way of allowing themselves to be a different archetype, right? So say for a woman who doesn't feel very sexy or to go buy lingerie, in that moment, maybe she's giving herself permission to embody the sexy archetype where she was supposed to be like the mom, or like whatever she thought that, right? Like the good girl, and then you have the bad girl, and like to really be all these archetypes. Again, unpacking kind of all the bullshit rules that we've been given of what we're allowed to feel. So let me see. So that was the kiss connection meditation. So the other, we kind of did that on the intimacy level and friendship level. The next level is an erotic connection, and then your primary connection will become a heart-to-heart connection, so you move into like hugging. And then if you're doing that with penetration, you have the genital connection. So these two kind of, like in Tantra, we really say like these connections are very powerful. Maybe in just that moment, you could feel that eye connection did something powerful. So imagine if you were more present what genital-genital connection is doing to your nervous system. Right? It's a lot. And not again woo-woo. It's literally you're going to start, having more serotonin and dopamine flooding through your system with that genital-genital connection. And the more you're able to give yourself permission to feel that, then the deeper it goes. But so doing that exact same practice we just did during intercourse, you can close your eyes and then open your eyes and kind of go back and forth, but try and breathe at the same time as your partner. And then you can even do that with the rhythm. So when you kind of inhale, that's the penetration in, and exhale, it's penetration out. Now, I have people all the time, they're like, okay, but no one's here learning this with me, so what, on my next date, I'm going to be like, hey, do the sexy Darth Vader breath, and, hold on, like, inhale, exhale. But I said, really, you're going to be, a sex Jedi, a Tantric sex Jedi, and that means just by doing this, it's basically, like, energy seeks the highest level. So when you start to do this on your own, when you have sex with someone else, you'll notice they start to feel something different. Whether you don't even have to teach them all that, and it doesn't have to be so obvious. I have one woman, she's 70 years old, and her husband married like 35 years. She's had kids. She didn't have an orgasm until she was 60. That's mind blowing. And I said, what allowed that? She's like, I finally just gave myself permission to feel that good. Like for me, I'm like, that's a lot of fucking for a lot of years without giving yourself permission to feel it. I was like, I'm just more selfish than that. I just wouldn't have shown up for the party. I'd be like, I mean, I'm here for you to have the best, but I'm gonna have, I'm not gonna be. You're not gonna be having all the fun, and I'm gonna be like, I don't know, like, not gonna happen. But she told me. So she came in when she started learning Tantra. Her husband's like a scientist. And he's making fun of it, and he's making fun of her, and didn't want to learn it at all. But she goes back, and when they're having sex now, just because literally she's activated this kind of different energy and different hormones in her body, and she feels more free, which is just sexier anyway. And she said he's like, what is going on? He's like, this is the best sex we've ever had. They're 70 after 35 years of being married, and the best sex they've ever had. Is, really goes to say a lot. And he didn't learn any of it. It's through her. So again, this idea, if you level up your vagina or your penis, the next time your vagina or penis meets another, it's gonna benefit from the increased energy field.
So I was focused on